Chelsea, a club that has spent close to £2 billion on players since their current owners took over, a club that won the FIFA Club World Cup, a club with global reach, global expectations and a squad filled with some of the most expensive young talent in European football. And yet, right now, Chelsea cannot score a goal. They cannot win a football match. And they are in very serious danger of falling out of the Champions League places entirely. That is where we are. That is the reality for this football club at this precise moment. Let us set the scene clearly. Saturday's 3-0 defeat at Everton was not just a bad result on a bad day. It was the fourth consecutive defeat for this Chelsea side across all competitions. The third match in a row where they failed to put the ball in the net. And it came just days after one of the most humiliating European nights this club has experienced in recent memory. An 8-2 hammering at the hands of Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League round of 16. 4 defeats in a row, 3 games without scoring, 8 goals conceded in a single European match. And now sitting 1 point behind 5th place Liverpool in the race for what is expected to be an additional Champions League qualification spot. A spot the Premier League is virtually certain to earn based on its position at the top of UEFA's coefficient table. This is not a blip, this is a crisis. And understanding how Chelsea arrived at this point requires looking carefully at the decisions made before, during and around this season. Let me be direct about what is at stake here. If Chelsea fail to finish in the top 5 of the Premier League this season, they will miss out on Champions League football next year. For a club of their size, their global brand and their financial commitments, that is a significant blow. Not just in terms of prestige, but in terms of income, player retention and their ability to attract top talent. The situation is even more complicated by the fact that Chelsea have already been handed a Premier League record fine of £10.75 million, along with a suspended transfer ban. These were sanctions for illicit payments made during the previous ownership under Roman Abramovich. So the club is navigating financial penalties, a potential ban hanging over them, a squad that is deeply unbalanced, and a head coach who is visibly struggling under the weight of one of football's most demanding jobs. If there was ever a moment that exposed everything wrong at Stamford Bridge right now, this is it. And if this kind of deep analysis on the real stories behind Chelsea's crisis is what you are looking for, then hit that subscribe button right now, because on this channel we do not do surface level, we do the full picture. Let us now go step by step through everything that is happening at this football club, starting with the man in the dugout. Liam Rosenior was appointed Chelsea head coach after the club sacked Enzo Maresca. He came from Strasbourg, which is a sister club within the same ownership structure. He was given a 6-year contract, 6 years at Chelsea. Now, to be fair to Rosenior, he is regarded within football circles as a bright and intelligent young coach. Wayne Rooney, the England and Manchester United legend, has publicly spoken about how impressed he was with Rosenior when the two worked together at Derby County. And Rosenior also had a difficult departure from Hull City in May 2024, where many felt the dismissal was harsh after he had significantly improved the club's league position. But here is the key point that cannot be ignored. The leap from managing Strasbourg to managing Chelsea is enormous. It is not just a step up, it is multiple steps. And the evidence suggests that the jump has simply been too much, too soon. Under Rosenior, Chelsea have won just 3 of their last 12 games. That is not a record that justifies his position at a club fighting for a top 5 Premier League finish. His press conference comments have at times been confusing. His in-game decisions have raised serious questions. And the atmosphere around Stamford Bridge is one of growing frustration from the supporters. But here is where the analysis becomes important, because while Rosenior is clearly struggling, it would be too easy and too lazy to place the blame entirely at his door. The reality for this football club is that Rosenior is a symptom of a wider disease. He is not the cause of Chelsea's problems. He is one of the consequences of the ownership philosophy that has defined this club since Clearlake Capital and Todd Boehly's Blue Co took over in May 2022. And what is that philosophy? Spend enormous amounts of money on young attacking players with potential, then cut corners on the positions that actually win you things. Like goalkeeper, like head coach. Let us look at the numbers. Last summer, Chelsea signed Jamie Gittins, the 21-year-old winger from Borussia Dortmund, for £48.5 million, a young player with potential. Weeks later, they added Alejandro Garnacho from Manchester United for £40 million, another young winger with potential. Earlier that same summer, the 18-year-old Brazilian Estevão arrived from Palmeiras for an initial £29 million. More potential, more attacking talent, more wingers. That is a combined outlay of over £117 million on 3 wide attackers, 2 of whom are teenagers or barely above it. And during that exact same summer, Chelsea identified AC Milan goalkeeper Mike Maignan as their primary target to solve their goalkeeper problem. A proven, experienced, elite-level goalkeeper, a player who has won league titles and played at the highest level consistently. The fee to sign Maignan was reported to be £21 million. £21 million for a goalkeeper who would have transformed their defence. Chelsea decided not to do the deal because they considered £21 million too expensive for a goalkeeper. Let that sink in. A club that spent £48.5 million on one winger in the same window decided that £21 million was too much for an experienced world-class goalkeeper. The consequence of that decision is now playing out in real time. Chelsea went into this season with Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen sharing the goalkeeper position. Neither has performed at a consistent level. In the first leg against PSG, Jorgensen made 2 errors that led directly to goals. Then at Everton, Sanchez was restored to the starting lineup and made a mistake that also led to a goal. Chelsea have spent close to £2 billion on players since the current ownership took over, and they still do not have a reliable goalkeeper. That is a damning indictment of the recruitment strategy at this club. Now, let us bring in what the voices from outside the club are saying, because the external reaction to Chelsea's recent form tells its own story. I want to go through each screenshot in the order they were shared, read what was said, and then give you my analysis of what it actually means. Petit said, and I am reading his words directly here, the way he is acting, his body language on the bench, the way he is always trying to write things down on the paper, then giving it to his players. I mean, come on, they do not get it. It was the case 20 years ago as well. We do not get it. So do not do that. We are not stupid. We are not kids. So just try to behave in the right way. Emmanuel Petit is a World Cup winner and a former Arsenal midfielder who played at the highest level of the game. When a figure of that stature makes those comments about a head coach's behaviour, it matters. The specific incident Petit is referring to is Rosenior handing a written tactical note to winger Alejandro Garnacho while Chelsea had just 5 minutes left to overturn a 6-goal deficit against PSG. The optics of that moment were not good, and Petit is articulating something important. There is a certain kind of tactical communication that experienced players respect, and there is a certain kind that they do not. The body language observation is also significant. A head coach who looks lost on the sideline does not inspire confidence in the players on the pitch. Perception matters in elite football. Petit said he was doing an excellent job at Strasbourg, but maybe he should have thought twice before taking the Chelsea role. The jump is massive. I believe he is a talented manager, but still very young in his journey. There is a lot he needs to learn before leading a club of Chelsea's level. It was quite sad to see him sitting on the bench so often, especially after that away game against PSG. This is actually the more balanced and fair version of Petit's views. He is not dismissing Rosenior's ability. He is questioning the timing, and that is exactly the right question to ask. Talent at lower levels does not automatically translate to readiness at the top level. The jump from Strasbourg to Chelsea is not a normal progression. And the image of a head coach sitting on the bench looking deflated after an 8-2 European defeat is one that does not leave supporters feeling confident. Petit's comments here align closely with what we know about the situation. The problem is not who Rosenior is, the problem is where he has been placed. Merson said, there are ways of losing football matches, and that was a horrible, horrible watch at Everton. It did not look to me that the players were really on the same page as the manager. That last sentence is the critical one. When a pundit of Merson's experience says the players do not look like they are on the same page as the manager, that is not just an opinion. That is an observation about team cohesion and trust. If the players are not buying into what the head coach is asking them to do, then no tactical system in the world will save you. And in a match where Chelsea lost 3-0 to a side fighting in the bottom half of the Premier League, that lack of alignment was clearly visible. Merson said, if Arne Slot got the sack at Liverpool this week, or if Eddie Howe left Newcastle, would Strasbourg boss Liam Rosenior have got one of those 2 jobs? I will go one further. Would he even get an interview? It is madness. This is a sharp and direct challenge, and it is hard to argue with the logic. Arne Slot is managing one of the most successful clubs in England right now. Eddie Howe has built a genuine top-half Premier League club at Newcastle with limited resources. If either of those positions became available, the global search for their replacement would involve the most decorated and experienced managers in the world. Rosenior's name would not be on that shortlist. Merson is not being cruel. He is highlighting a structural problem. The standards applied to other top clubs in their managerial searches are simply not being applied at Chelsea, and the results are showing exactly why those standards exist. The Post states that Chelsea midfielder Enzo Fernandez is reportedly keen on improved contract terms despite strong speculation he could leave the club this summer. The Times claim Fernandez is interested in a new deal, but many believe he is still focused on a potential move away, with a big money offer likely to trigger his departure. If Chelsea hope to convince him to stay, they may need to match his ambitions both financially and in terms of Champions League football. This one carries a very important caveat. This is a rumour at this stage. Nothing is confirmed, but the implications are serious. Enzo Fernandez was signed for a club record fee. He is one of the few genuinely world-class players in this Chelsea squad. The suggestion that he might leave is concerning on multiple levels. And the key phrase here is Champions League football. If Chelsea fail to qualify for the Champions League next season, their ability to retain players of Fernandez's calibre becomes significantly weaker. This story is one to monitor very closely, but for now it remains a rumour. Chelsea and Tottenham are both reportedly targeting Sporting CP left-back Maxi Araujo, a 26-year-old Uruguayan international with a market value of €25 million. Again, this is reported speculation and not confirmed, but the Chelsea interest in a left-back makes sense given the squad dynamics. Marc Cucurella's situation is one the club will need to address. This is a rumour to track, but nothing more at this stage. Chelsea have reportedly identified Sunderland goalkeeper Robin Roufs as a key target. There is said to be a secret release clause in Roufs' contract, believed to be around £40 million, which could open the door for a transfer. This is a rumour, but it speaks directly to the goalkeeper problem we discussed earlier. If this is genuine interest from Chelsea, it confirms that the club is fully aware of how badly they need to solve the goalkeeper position. The irony is that they reportedly refused to spend £21 million on Mike Maignan, a proven elite goalkeeper, in the last transfer window, and now they may need to spend £40 million on a younger, unproven option instead. That is the cost of short-term financial thinking. Chelsea's owners, Blueco, are reportedly ready to back Liam Rosenior until the end of the current season. But the Post notes clearly that if Chelsea's push for Champions League qualification fades, patience could quickly run out. This is significant. It tells us that right now, as of this moment, Chelsea are not planning to sack Rosenior immediately. The owners are giving him time to implement his vision, but the qualifier is critical: Champions League qualification. That is the condition of his employment beyond this season. And with Chelsea sitting 1 point behind Liverpool in 5th place following 4 consecutive defeats, the pressure on Rosenior to deliver results in the final weeks of the season could not be higher. Cesc Fabregas is reportedly in the mix to become the next Chelsea manager, priced at 6-1 by betting markets, alongside another former player and a current Premier League manager. This is speculation from betting markets and should be treated as such. But the mention of Fabregas is interesting. He is currently managing Como in Italy and is widely regarded as one of the most promising young coaches in the game. However, the betting odds alone do not constitute credible transfer or managerial news. This is worth noting, but not worth reading too much into at this stage. The Post states there are suggestions that Cole Palmer also wants to escape the chaos at Chelsea. He has said nothing to that effect, but the suggestion is that he felt he was signing for a football club, not a trading house. This is unconfirmed, and Palmer himself has not said this publicly. So I want to be clear, this is speculation at this point, but the underlying frustration being described is understandable. Chelsea have built a reputation in recent years for buying and selling players at a rapid pace, treating the squad as an asset portfolio rather than a football team. If that environment is genuinely affecting a player of Palmer's talent and profile, that would be an extremely serious problem for this club. Chelsea have reportedly stepped up their pursuit of Inter Milan striker Lautaro Martinez with an £86 million offer, including add-ons. The clubs are said to be very close to signing him, with Chelsea planning to include Andre Santos in the package to reduce the fee. My analysis, I want to be careful here. This comes from a source that is not one of the established Tier 1 reporters, and no major credible journalist has confirmed this story. Until Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein or a similar established journalist confirms this, I would treat it as unverified rumour. I am not dismissing it entirely, but this level of story requires Tier 1 confirmation before it can be discussed as serious news. Chelsea are reportedly planning a bid of around £35 million for AC Milan centre-back Strahinja Pavlovic, looking to add experience, leadership and physicality to their defence. Milan are said to be keen to keep him, again unconfirmed speculation. But the direction of travel makes sense. Chelsea's defensive issues have been well documented this season. Adding a physical, experienced central defender would address a genuine need in the squad. Whether the £35 million figure is accurate or whether Chelsea will actually make a move remains to be seen. The Post argues that Chelsea should admit their mistake on Rosenior and move quickly for Bournemouth manager Andoni Iraola. It describes Rosenior's appointment as a convenience pick, not a sporting merit decision. Iraola is described as out of contract at Bournemouth this summer and touted as one of the world's top young managers. This is opinion and analysis from a media outlet, not confirmed news. The argument itself is a coherent one. Iraola has done impressive work at Bournemouth and is widely respected in football circles. Whether Chelsea would actually pursue him is unknown at this stage. But the debate around who should replace Rosenior if he is replaced is clearly ongoing in the football media. Without Champions League football, there is no financial pressure to sell. Chelsea modelled their UEFA sanction agreement on income from Europa League qualification. But if they needed to perform major squad surgery again, they might be tempted to sell a key player. Club sources stress it would have to be done for football reasons. This is a genuinely important piece of context. Chelsea's financial structure is built around a certain level of UEFA competition income. The Europa League was the minimum baseline factored into their UEFA sanction agreement. If they miss even that, the financial picture becomes complicated. And the mention of potentially selling a key player is the kind of thing that, combined with the Fernandes rumours and the Cole Palmer speculation, points to a summer of significant turbulence at Stamford Bridge. Cole Palmer has produced just 1 assist in the Premier League this season. That is a striking statistic. In his debut season at Chelsea, Palmer was electric. He was the kind of player who changed games, who made things happen, who produced in the biggest moments. The fact that he has managed just 1 Premier League assist this entire season is a reflection not just of his own form, but of how dysfunctional this Chelsea team has become as a collective unit. When a player of his ability is operating at that level, something is seriously wrong with the system around him. Hato said, "We had a few difficult games in a row, so maybe it is a good time now to have the international break. Everyone has the time for themselves to think about how we are going to do it after the break. But I still have a lot of belief in this squad, and I think we will reach what we want to reach this season." This is a player trying to stay composed and positive in the face of a very difficult run of results. And that is understandable. Hato is a young defender who is representing this club professionally and carefully with his words. But what his comment also reveals is that the international break is being welcomed as a relief from the current situation. That in itself tells you about the mental and emotional state of the dressing room right now. Per Romano, contacts and interest from Inter Milan continue to exist for Andre Santos. Inter's management has met on multiple occasions with agents close to the Chelsea midfielder. Chelsea previously rejected a €50 million offer for Santos from Saudi Arabia. Fabrizio Romano is a Tier 1 journalist. This is therefore credible information. Chelsea rejecting a €50 million Saudi offer for Santos tells us the club values him. But Inter Milan's persistent interest is notable. If Santos is to be included in a potential deal for Lautaro Martinez, as the unverified report suggested, this provides context about why his name might be in those conversations. His situation is one to watch closely in the summer window. Chelsea are reportedly preparing a €40 million offer for AC Milan defender Strahinja Pavlovic as part of a planned squad revolution next season. My analysis: this mirrors the earlier Austin Honey post about Pavlovic with a slightly different fee figure. The consistent appearance of his name across multiple reports does suggest genuine interest, but until this is confirmed by top-level journalists, it remains in the rumour category. Chelsea have made contact over Maxi Araujo from Sporting CP. Marc Cucurella has just 2 years left on his contract. Manchester City are also reportedly interested in Araujo. If Cucurella leaves, Chelsea may move quickly for Araujo as his replacement. Again, unverified at this stage, but the logic is sound. Cucurella's contract situation is real. If City move for him, Chelsea will need a replacement. Araujo has been one of the standout left-backs in European football this season. The €25 million valuation would represent relatively good value in the current market. Closing analyses, so what does all of this tell us when you bring it together? Chelsea are a club at a crossroads. Not for the first time under this ownership, but perhaps at the most critical moment since Clearlake and Bluecoat took over. The immediate crisis is clear. 4 consecutive defeats, 3 games without a goal, 1 point behind Liverpool in the race for the final Champions League spot. a head coach whose authority and capability are being publicly questioned by respected former players and pundits. But the deeper crisis is the one that has been building for longer. The ownership philosophy of spending heavily on young attacking talent while cutting corners on essential positions like goalkeeper and head coach. The decision to turn down a £21 million goalkeeper while spending over £100 million on 3 wingers in the same window. The appointment of a bright but clearly over-promoted young manager and giving him a 6-year contract at one of the world's most demanding football clubs. The evidence suggests that Chelsea's problems are not going to be solved by one result, one transfer or one change of head coach alone. The structural problems at the club run deeper than that. The international break gives every player and every staff member at Chelsea time to reflect. Jorel Hatto said it himself. It is a moment to think carefully about what comes next. But thinking alone will not be enough. When Premier League football resumes, Chelsea will need performances, results and goals. Because without Champions League football next season, the summer ahead could be far more disruptive than anything this club has experienced so far under the current ownership. That is the reality for Chelsea right now. That is the full picture. I am Maya, and this has been Maya on Chelsea.